Alright, I thought about doing like a little jingle for secret report time, like I did with Xehanort secret reports and Birth by Sleep, but I don't even know whose reports these are. This seems like a hefty amount, so let's get excited. It's an unknown author. Let's try to figure it out for ourselves. I was gonna say, thank God these are short, but then I saw there's multiple pages. 3 years have passed since the game that caught the attention of the higher plane. Alright, well already that has to deal with angels, so probably has, maybe? Observation is still ongoing, but from the UG, it looks as if Shibuya is on the brink of catastrophe once more. I'm forbidden from intervening in the game this time, so I'll have to settle for recording the changing state of both the RG and UG here in this report. It's not Mr. H, is it? The Executor first intruded on Shibuya 3 years ago. Originally from Shinjuku, this angel started a clandestine game with Shibuya's composer, which ultimately led to Shinjuku's destruction. This angel started a game with Shibuya's composer, okay. He should have been... This probably is going to explain why Joshua didn't really do anything. He should have been reprimanded as soon as he arrived in Shibuya, but the elites are turning a blind eye for some reason, possibly because most higher plane denizens still oppose Shibuya's impurification. This game resembles said impurification in that it is subject to a set of extenuating circumstances somehow keeping it in balance, which are as follows. Difference of opinion and subsequent conflict on the subject of Shibuya's destruction, the absence of the composer, the game being played by 2 proxies, and direct interference by the Executor. Neither the Executor, who wishes for Shibuya to be destroyed and purified, nor the composer, who has managed to prevent this up until now, can directly intervene in the goings-ons of the UG. If they wish to take action, they must do so via proxy. Shibuya to be destroyed and purified. The Executor's proxy in the game is the conductor, Shiba Miyakaze. Right, okay, conductor, composer. I need to kind of keep... I'm trying to just keep everything in check right now. So, like... And the composer is the human player, one Rindo Kanata. So... Maybe it was still Joshua that gave him the pen? Like, maybe that was... what Kubo's... Like, we'll read about it. But maybe that was, like, the one stipulation. Like, the... composer, which it would be Joshua, right? So this is all like a big crazy game, just like in the first one. Okay. I will henceforth refer to Shiba Miyakaze as the conductor and Rindo Kanata as the proxy. We gotta keep that in mind always. Perhaps spurred by the appearance of the proxy, former Reaper Sho Minamoto has resumed activity after an extended period of silence. Furthermore, I'm picking up vibes similar to those emitting from Shinjuku just before its purification. They are still faint, but I will keep a closer eye on them. Like my assumption, if Joshua had to pick Rindo, is that for the game to work, Rindo, basically him picking him was giving him that special one. So I could have still been right about Joshua, even though the pen itself was more of a Kubo thing. The proxy in place of an acting composer, the game is affected in numerous ways, the most significant being the implementation of bogus rules by the conductor. One such rule is the division of players into teams, presumably adopted from Shinjuku's rulebook. It's weird that they would call that bogus rules and not just the conductor gets to choose the rules. Under the team system, whichever team earns the most points over the course of the week may choose to either continue playing or not. If they choose not to continue, they may return to the RG if they so desire. However, only the composer can send players back to the RG. The conductor has no right to implement such a rule, and no ability to carry it out. As such, it is in the conductor's best interest for the winning team to choose to continue playing. To assure this will happen, he has allied himself with a team clearly intent on continuing the game indefinitely, the Runebringers. Each team's relative value is measured against the others using their scores, and a loss for the team is a loss for each individual within it. It is unclear when these rules were first implemented in Shinjuku, but what is clear is that they seem specifically designed to eliminate players counter to the objective of the game. Okay, nothing really new from that one. A new player has joined the Proxy's team. The inability of the composer and myself, the producer, to intervene puts Shibuya at a disadvantage. Inability of the composer and myself to intervene. But this new recruit in Minamoto may help turn the tides. Is this... okay, yeah, it says it right there. The team's new member, one Nagi Utsue, is at once open-minded and closed off. Interestingly, this makes her the perfect foil to Tosoe Furusawa. A healthy variety of personalities and abilities should benefit their team. I wonder, that might be more so related to the stuff that kind of happened with Neku. I think the variety of people that he interacted with, like, boosted his power, right? The Proxy has started using his powers in earnest. I can scarcely believe someone could have such a powerful latent ability. Latent powers are unique, naturally occurring abilities awakened by tuning vibes. These vibes originate from the higher plane and resonate with the soul of an individual. This is going into like all of the like physical power stuff that I don't remember the full names of, like soul being an actual important thing and not just a vague thought. Kind of like with Kingdom Hearts and Heartless and whatnot. I think at the end of the game when they were saying like the combined imagination of Shibuya wasn't just like a fancy like hopeful thing. I think imagination is another one of those like power level things. Excuse me. Tuning them into their dormant powers. Incidentally, these vibes are the same ones required for travel between planes, which is what I guess the time travel itself was, right? It is highly unusual for multiple players with latent powers to appear in succession. I suspect the pins found in the RG have been imbued with tuning vibes for the express purpose of seeking out such individuals. The more hands the pin make their way into, the greater the chance of finding promising new players. However, the Proxy's ability is a significant deviation from standard latent powers. It is far too dangerous. If I could, I would have ensured it remained dormant for the sake of both the UG and the RG. It has the potential to not only warp, but demolish the lower plane's code. Wonder if the composer foresaw this and chose his Proxy because of it. So, what exactly is the purpose of the Reaper's games? Let us review. The explicit goal of the game is to locate exceptional individuals, players of superior imagination, I told you! Players of superior imagination are elevated to the higher plane and made into Reapers or Angels to aid in the oversight of their region. The UG is located on a higher plane than the RG. It is understood to be the afterlife as the soul is modulated and relocated to UG upon the death of the body in the RG. However, the Proxy and his fellows were brought to the UG unmodulated. They have already begun to suspect that something is amiss in respect to both themselves and the Ruinbringers. The Reapers should be fighting for their lives, same as the players. Shibuya's internal Reaper hierarchy is at a total standstill. 3 years ago, Shibuya's acting composer and conductor carried out a game to determine Shibuya's fate. The events that unfolded are now known as Shibuya's Impurification. That's the first game. The hierarchical? That can't be how I would say that. Freeze presumably stems from the opposition to the Impurification. I detected a new set of vibes in the UG at the end of the day. It seems those pins have awakened new powers within someone and modulated them for entry into the UG, just like the Proxy. Is this when Beat showed up? Within someone and modulated them for entry into the UG, just like the Proxy. This time it is someone the composer and I know quite well. It's definitely one of them. I'm assuming because they showed up in the UG, just like the Proxy, it has to be Beat, because he was still alive and not dead, while Neku was technically dead, right? And this is when we get into Turf War, which, like, I've explained why I don't like those, but whatever. A turf war called the Scramble Slam has just taken place. The Runebringers declined to participate. If they had, they surely would have won, leading to a decrease in overall morale. I suspect this little diversion, which pits players against each other in place of noise, exists purely for the entertainment of the conductor. This week marks the 10-4 game under the current conductor. The Deep River Society, the Vera Beauties, and the Pure Hearts have all been subject to at least 30 loops. Really? Ah, God, how many players were there? They're beginning to show signs of fatigue, presumably sensing the impossibility of victory against the Runebringers. I feel like I don't think I would be able to last if it was more than 3 weeks. That's nuts. How many groups ended up actually perishing because of that? Perceiving the game as unwinnable has a marked negative effect on players' well-beings. The Proxy's team may be able to avoid coming in last place, but the odds of them toppling the Runebringers to claim victory are slim. Although anything can happen in this game, they may surprise me yet. Minamoto has become aware of the Proxy's power and seems to be plotting something. You know he is. He always is plotting. The Proxy's soul is beginning to change. Strangely, its evolution trends towards stagnation rather than development. It is almost as if the range of his vibe is shrinking. The world is ending with him, and that's a bad thing. I believe this may be due in part to his readiness to adopt the opinions and values of others. Okay, so this is going more into the negative character trait of him not really making decisions, which I still think is a little flimsy, but whatever. Mistakenly believing them to be his own. He seems to do this entirely unconsciously. He may never realize that it is happening. Under ordinary circumstances, players in Shibuya's game pay an entry fee upon arrival, through which the composer offers them a chance to re-examine themselves. This game has no entry fee. The Shinjuku rules neither encourage nor allow for personal growth or change, making the game just that, a mere competition to collect points to prove one's worth. The Proxy's stagnant soul makes him the perfect user for his latent ability. For better or for worse, he is able to maintain abnormally high levels of imagination, thereby increasing the accuracy of each replay. The pieces fit together almost too perfectly. I can only hope I'm overthinking things. Maybe it's just that, like, Joshua picked Rindo as the Proxy, and then Kubo was like, haha, I got a plan here. The Proxy's gonna have my super secret pen, and it's gonna make things bad. Haha. Although it almost seems like the fact that he can rewind would have been harder. I don't know. It seems like it would have been harder to know that that would be possible, but maybe. Again, there's more secret report. I should stop speculating and just read. The Deep River Society has been erased in accordance with the rules of the game. I also am wondering, because we are on the 7th day, and this is report number 7, if each one of these reports correspond correctly to the same day. I don't know if the Scramble Crossing one was on the right. Scramble Crossing. The Scramble Slam was on the correct day there, but I'm assuming it would be. They've been erased in accordance with the rules of the game. The souls of all members, including the leader, are gone. Their erasure runs counter to the goal of judging each player's abilities, but it is unsurprising considering the conductor's intentions. Upon witnessing the erasure, the Proxy's vibes have weakened once again. His increasingly hardened emotional state may be cause for concern. I suspected the individual who arrived in the Proxy's moment of need was the source of the vibes I detected a few days ago. It does not appear as if the composer had a hand in the sudden appearance of our old friend. In sharp contrast to the ever-active executor, the composer is seemingly biding his time. That kind of seemed like mostly what Joshua was doing in the first place. Also, because he's explaining this as, our old friend, I can only assume it's Mr. H. I don't remember if he was called a producer before. Although I am unable to make contact to confirm, I believe the reappearance of this particular individual works in Shibuya's favor. Minamoto, on the other hand, has all but vanished from the Proxy's side. His noise refinery sigil drastically heightens his imagination, which may be why he can clearly recognize the Proxy's abilities. The noise refinery sigil, is that just what a Reaper has, or is that a unique thing? I have an idea of what he's planning. It's dangerous, but I have no way of stopping him. Incidentally, the noise refinery sigil is thank you for telling me because I have no idea, is a reproduction copied from its original by a certain Reaper. Its completeness, or lack thereof, may be a factor in the subtle changes in Minamoto's fundamental vibes. So that's the, I'm guessing it's the reproduction from when Coco revived him. I'm not fully sure about that one. 4 teams remain: the Runebringers, the Pure Hearts, the Very Beauties, and the Wicked Twisters. Only one may survive and emerge victorious. At long last, the game approaches its conclusion. Not quite, this is only the 2nd week. According to Shinjuku's rules, incoming players' abilities must exceed the total average imagination of the current players for them to be allowed into the game. The total average imagination of the current players. That's weird. As the game so basically that just means that no one else can come in, right? Because we're getting too much imagination power. As the game continues and low-ranking teams are eliminated, the average rises, making it more and more difficult for newcomers to enter. It's as if I should just read the next paragraph so I don't have to speculate. With the Deep River Society gone, the Wicked Twister's impressive latent abilities, the average imagination has increased dramatically. Only an immensely powerful player could be pulled in at this point. It can be safely assumed that the game will continue and conclude with no more than the current set of players. The game will continue into the week after next at longest, but the conductor has yet to contact the composer. It is possible he is unaware of the higher planes purification protocol. The conductor... If all goes according to the conductor's plan, he himself will be the victor of this game. I don't know what the mindset of to like have to call Shiba and Rindo the conductor and proxy for these reports. It seems like it's more trouble than it's worth, and it would be easier just to have their names. A new arrival has joined the proxy's team, almost as if filling the hole left by Minamoto. Daisuke no Jo Bito, also known as B, was a player in the game leading to Shibuya's impurification. His fortitude is remarkable, as is his soul and imagination. He should prove a powerful ally to the proxy. And yet the proxy's soul remains stagnant, or perhaps it would be more accurate to say it has stagnated further. I felt a similar shift 8 days ago when Minamoto joined the team. If this is the fundamental immaturity of the proxy's soul, it will be difficult to bring to light, unlike Neku's leading up to the impurification. Difficult to bring his soul to light, unlike getting Neku's to open up. Okay. The proxy initiated another replay today. I liked it in the report where they have like official names for people like proxy and conductor. He just goes with, yeah, I guess replay is a good name for it. Wasn't that just a name that Fret came up with on the spot? Proxy initiated another replay today. The resulting drastic increase in planar distortion indicates that at this rate, an explosive increase is likely after only a few more uses. I feel like we used it a lot more than a few times after this day. However, the proxy's pin is effectively absorbing the distortions, preventing the UG and lower planes from being affected at this time. I guess that's what he's saying, is that because it's absorbing that, there's not as much distortion. All of the Reapers stationed in Shibuya, including the conductor, would ordinarily be referred to as Shibuya Reapers, but ongoing conflict has caused those from Shinjuku to be called Shinjuku Reapers. Do we really need to talk about that? I think it was pretty clear what was happening. Shinjuku's inversion 3 years ago jump-started its purification, forcing the Reapers there to flee to Shibuya. An inversion happens when the boundary between the UG and the RG is destroyed, forcing the purification. It occurs, albeit incredibly rarely, when the composer and conductor fail to agree on the purification. The composer's permission is not required for a Reaper to continue working in a new area. Such transfers are left up to the conductor. That's interesting. In this case, Shibuya's temporary conductor at the time authorized the transfer of all Reapers from Shinjuku to Shibuya. I detected no sign nor vibes of the Shinjuku conductor at present. I assume he was destroyed along with Shinjuku. Once the purification has begun, it is standard for the conductor to be invited up to the higher plane. There is almost no evidence of a mass personal transfer after the erasure of a conductor in the past. Almost. There is almost no evidence of a mass personal transfer after the erasure of a conductor. Upon reviewing the records, I managed to find 4 cases where the affected area had fallen into imbalance before the purification was decided. One of those cases is Shibuya's impurification. The composer should file a report on the circumstances leading up to Shinjuku's purification at some point, although I doubt he'll do a thorough job of it considering his disinterest in the lower planes. With Shibuya's composer giving his tacit approval to the Shinjuku Reapers, Shibuya's Reapers have no choice but to follow the rules given to them. Regardless of the true circumstances, Shiba Miyakaze has effectively become the conductor through legal means, as he was judged to be fit for the role. Wait. I want to look at something real quick here. The composer permission is not working. Version 3. So, like, technically speaking, Shiba should have been allowed into the higher planes, but I'm guessing because Kubo wanted to get his grimy hands on Shibuya, he didn't let Shiba in yet, or like didn't let him in on that aspect. I don't know how much. I don't think a conductor would know a lot about the inner workings of angels in the higher plane. Restlessness builds among the team leaders, and the proxy's psychological state is far from optimal. I can only hope he will last a week. The team's base groove is abnormally low. We're at 300%. In a system built around teamwork, and also again, they're using the term groove. Built around teamwork, such irregularities are certain to have a major effect on the outcome of the game. A network called the RNS was created specifically for this game. The ease with which it measures each individual's vibes and imagination makes it a useful tool for the management of both players and Reapers. However, making this information viewable also makes it accessible from the RG. Okay, so that would explain then how Rhyme was able to kind of learn and deal with it. It can only be found by those who know of the UG's existence and are sufficiently proficient with networks. No modulation is required to communicate between planes this way, though it is yet unclear if other issues arise as a result. It's possible that communicating through the network could inhibit imagination, just as the full meaning and imagination of a work of art cannot be captured on a screen. I'm no longer active as Cat. Okay, so like that is explicitly now. This is all Mr. H's report again. But if and when I resume, I must keep in mind how my works will be perceived when shared digitally, and alter my methods of expression accordingly. Perhaps the developer of the RNS could provide me with some insight in that regard. These shit kids started doing graffiti next to my artwork, and it makes me mad. They put their graffiti right next to mine. I'm upset about it. There has been a change in the proxy's psychological state, as well as an improvement to relations between the members of his team. This is good news. What day is this? This is the second to last day, right? However, the proxy still remains stagnant as ever. I've yet to fully analyze the stagnation, as I am currently unable to take any actions beyond observing and hoping for the best. This would be after Motoi, right? By Shinjuku rules, Reapers are limited in the actions they may take. Of course, obstructing players is not allowed on the basic level. The primary enemies that players face are other players, namely those on opposing teams. Thus, any team aiming for the top must go through the Runebringers. The proxy and his team are taking a different approach against the seemingly unbeatable Runebringers. To what extent it goes against the rules of the game remains to be seen. I doubt the conductor will sit idly by and let them do as they please. If he is forced to make a move, things will either end very well or very poorly. As previously stated, Reapers are not allowed to interfere in the game, and yet one of them is currently doing just that. It's possible that her Reaper status will be stripped from her, but where will that leave her once the game is over? Okay, that's Shoka. The leader of the Pure Hearts, one Motoi Anazawa, has gotten himself into a dire predicament. While alive and online, he found himself a loyal follower in the proxy. If Motoi Anazawa is to face erasure, it would likely have a significant effect on the proxy, though to what extent remains to be seen. I was wrong. So this is when we get the Motoi stuff. I kind of need to go back and see what the day was that like positive vibes were coming in, because I don't remember what happened there. Online communication can result in negative or positive outcomes, just the same as face-to-face communication. However, the opacity and anonymity. Oh my god, anonymity. That was still wrong, but I need to just move on. Accompanying digital communication leaves its participants more susceptible to misunderstanding. It must have been quite a shock for the proxy to see Motoi Anazawa's true nature, which was invisible to him online. As predicted, Shoka Sakurane has been demoted from Reaper to player as punishment for meddling in the game and directly assisting players. Reapers face very few. I guess the day where positive vibes were happening was when Rindo decided to actually team up with Kanon, right? Reapers face very few restrictions on the RNS. They may interact with the RG freely so long as they do not reveal their identities. But should they be demoted, their account is deleted and a separate player account takes its place. With her old account deactivated, Shoka Sakurane is no longer able to interact with the proxy as his online friend, unless she chooses to reveal herself as such. She has aided the proxy via messaging up till now, but with that option no longer available to her, her next course of action is unclear. The conductor has made his intentions known to the players. Although it would be impossible for him to carry out his goal of destroying Shibuya merely as the conductor, he believes himself to be the executor as well, sent from the higher plane to purify the city. I want to know how that he was convinced by that. I know Kubo told him he was, but like, that seems crazy to be like, hey, you know you were like from the higher planes, right? And like, oh yeah, I feel it. Yeah, I'm Shiba from the higher planes, I'm the executor, I'm a cool guy. The Pure Hearts have been erased. As expected, only 2 teams remain, discounting the Runebringers. With the Runebringers' true nature revealed, it is likely that the rules will change next game to reflect that the players stand to oppose the Reapers rather than each other. I have detected unique vibes emanating from a certain inanimate object, the Mr. Mew doll. I found it odd that the old stuffed animal should show up, but as it turns out, it is temporarily housing a disordered soul. Shinjuku's conductor saved the soul it contains, paying the price with his own erasure. An angel's power is needed to free the captive soul. There is still no sign of the composer, and I am forbidden from meddling in the game. Is Shiki an angel? How did she do it? Shinjuku's conductor saved the soul it contains, paying the price with his own erasure. I don't know what that means. I doubt the executor would be willing to help considering he most likely trapped it there to begin with. The only available options are to leave the soul imprisoned or locate someone else with the means to release it. I suspect the original creator of the stuffed animal, a player who managed to return the RG 3 years ago, would be able to assist. Unfortunately, she is currently absent from Shibuya, so I mean, I guess still just her being able to fix the doll is what was able to get that through. The game's rules have changed significantly. Players as well as Reapers, or even the conductor, may erase their opponents after defeating them. Reapers or even the conductor, that's weird. At the same time the rules changed, Shiba made an unforeseen move against Shibuya, and Inversion is underway. The noise released by the conductor have destabilized the code of the entire Shibuya region. The lower planes, including the UG and RG, are particularly unsteady. The code is a set of laws that binds together the souls that make up all of existence. Think of it as the screws which hold everything together. Some of Shibuya's screws are loose, and others have been removed altogether, leaving nothing to support the city but its own weight. In other words, Shibuya is on the brink of collapse. The deterioration of the boundary between the RG and UG is being hastened by rapidly multiplying noise. If the boundary is lost, the city will be torn apart and purified. There are many in the higher plane who believe normal purification has no meaning as it maintains the existing plan or framework. However, it is generally agreed that Inversion should not be utilized due to the complete loss of character the affected area undergoes as its framework is destroyed and rebuilt. And yet the composer maintains his silence as Shibuya faces the same fate as Shinjuku before it. While Shibuya has undergone dramatic changes, the proxy's psychological state is surprisingly stable. This could be interpreted as positive personal growth, as he has come to understand the situation he has been placed in, as well as what actions to take in response. Shoka Sakurane has joined the proxy's team. Her extraordinary powers should make her a fine addition. So, I mean, it's not surprising that Joshua is just like, I'm gonna just see what happens. because, you know, Joshua's a little shit. One of the Shinjuku Reapers has been eliminated. I suspect the conductor saw this coming. Angels emit vibes strong enough to alter the minds of those in the lower planes. Reportedly, many Shinjuku Reapers have sensed a change in Shiba Miyakaze's personality over time. I wonder how he will feel about all this after the Executor leaves and allows him to return to his former self. Okay, so that's kind of why he wasn't still a bad guy, is like once Kubo's gone, he kind of gets back into his own personality, and was probably why he was easier to sway with Tsugumi and what's-his-face. Proxy has now used the replay ability 8 times, his pen absorbing the resulting planar distortion and changing appearance with each use. At present, there are no apparent adverse effects. I'm concerned about the physical changes to the Proxy's pen. It may indicate some kind of fundamental difference from the other pens. Perhaps replay isn't a latent ability at all. It is far too powerful and would make much more sense as a gift bestowed upon the Proxy via the pen. The player pens were almost certainly made by the Executor. As an angel, he would be able to prepare special pens at will. It is... so I can imagine, yeah, maybe Kubo gave Joshua the player pen to give to the Proxy as like a sly little trick so that he could win against Joshua. It is unclear when and how the Proxy acquired his pen. Logically, it must have been on the day he arrived in UG. All I know for certain is that several factors influencing the Proxy's fate were in play that day. It also could just be that Joshua picks the Proxy and then Kubo gives him this pen, again, as like a, I'm gonna make the game more in my favor. In any case, to give him such a pen knowing he is the composer's Proxy would be either incredibly brave or incredibly insolent. All I know for certain is that several factors. Okay, yeah. Again, I need to not talk about these things when they're just going to be explained to me, but it's fun. The Fair Beauties have been erased. This is a major blow to the Proxy's team, as Kanon Takabana provided them with vital emotional support. Tosei Furusawa's soul is clearly the most heavily affected, despite his fundamental evasiveness and unwillingness to show his true feelings. Once experience leads one to hold a certain belief, it is difficult to alter that mindset. This often leads to bitterness and anguish. I wonder just how much of his bitterness Tosei Furusawa will be able to bear facing. The answer may very well depend on the Proxy and his teammates. Still, this is no time for idle talk. The Proxy's team is the only one left. The conductor is oddly fixated on the team's unstable state. I would go so far as to say he seems more concerned with his enemies than the battle itself. As events unfold, it is not unthinkable that he might join forces with the Proxy. With the conductor's plans laid bare, every Reaper, particularly the Shibuya Reapers, will be forced to choose a side. Some of them who know what I am occasionally try to contact me, but I cannot respond. How many know what he is? Like, it doesn't matter. I guess some of them do know that about angels then. The Shibuya Reapers will need to grow and adapt if they are to overcome this. My old cafe on Cat Street, the one that served as my base 3 years ago, is always open to them. I hear that some drop by on occasion. Notably, the faint vibes I felt from Shinjuku have returned to their full former strength. Someone is coming. Someone who can help decide Shibuya's fate. Who could it be? Is it Neku? It's Neku. I had to read that again just to double check, but I know it's Neku. Neku! I'm surprised it's Neku. Neku Sakuraba has returned to Shibuya. As I suspected, the vibes I picked up 17 days ago were his. Being the last team standing has provided... I thought he was going to say, being the last team member that joins the Wicked Twisters. Being the last team standing has provided the Wicked Twisters with a sense of unity, but Daizuka Nojo Bito appears to believe it is his sole responsibility to carry the team. I can't say he was wrong in his actions towards Minamoto, but the fact remains that he most likely would have been erased by the ex-Reaper had Neku not arrived. The team has narrowly avoided disaster. Let's hope they can carry on that momentum. Minamoto's focus was purely on the planar distortions when he turned half noise and went berserk. He may not be able to clearly measure the distortions from the UG, but that he can sense them at all is an impressive feat. I suspect he is also becoming aware of the distortions within himself, along with the fact that these distortions should be undetectable from the UG. Minamoto seems to have come to the same conclusion I have. Replay is too powerful an ability to be wielded by one from the lower planes, and beginning to piece together the Executor's plan. One more thing that concerns me is the proxy soul. Its stagnation has returned in full force just when it seemed that it might finally fade away. The stagnation was going to fade away and not the soul. I got confused by that sentence, I'm sorry. Stagnation has returned in full force just when it seemed it might finally fade away. There must be some cause for this, be it the proxy's fear of Minamoto or uncertainty surrounding his own interactions with Neku. Interesting, that seems weird. Neku Sakuraba has joined forces with the proxy. The composer had sent him from Shibuya into Shinjuku during its purification, presumably to have him handle the situation there and keep him isolated and safe from those who would target him for his abilities, which seemed like a good plan because he was targeted when they thought Beat was him. As for the proxy, his soul remains stagnant. I have yet to identify what exactly is preventing its growth. This would be much simpler if I could sit down and talk with him and tell him that the world begins with him and it doesn't end with him. After repeated demands, I have finally obtained the report on Shinjuku's purification. On the surface, the game involved a conflict between the conductor and the Reapers. In actuality, the composer, eager to purify Shinjuku, planted the Executor amongst the Reapers to oppose and take down the conductor. This explains why the conductor was erased and the Reapers... Okay, that was where my confusion was. So the conductor was erased and wasn't able to go to the higher plane. When all of the Reapers, and I guess because the Executor was with the Reapers, came to Shibuya, that was when Shiba was thrust into the role of the conductor, right? That explains why the conductor was erased and the Reapers transferred to a new area. Tsugumi Matsune had her suspicions about the Executor, so he sealed her soul away to be safe. She was once a Reaper. Why wouldn't he just erase her? I mean, maybe he's not allowed. Like, he can't interfere. Which is a vague thing because there's some amount of wiggle room with interference. She was once a Reaper, though the Executor removed her status after she allied herself with her older brother, Shinjuku's conductor. Okay. In Shinjuku, to lose their Reaper status is to be erased. Knowing he was defeated, Shinjuku's conductor used the last of his strength to save... Okay. And that's again where my confusion was with the conductor facing erasure to save her soul. Was that it was a different conductor. Again, this would have been made a lot easier if they just referred to Shiba as Shiba and referred to Shinjuku's old conductor as this, but I'm also not great at reading comprehension, so it's my bad. But we got to the correct spot eventually. And then, like, in Shinjuku to use your Reaper status is to be erased, which would have been what happened to Shoka, which Shiba mentioned at the end, but then Joshua changed that. Shinjuku's conductor used the last of his strength to save his sister's soul in a stuffed animal. That stuffed animal belonged to one Shika Misaki. It was, like, actually belonged to her. Like, it was the same one. A Shibuya Reaper must have taken it to Shinjuku. Who? As a result, that wasn't... Did Coco do that? I'm not positive on that. As a result, Tsugumi... I didn't realize that was specifically Shika's Mr. Mew doll. I thought it was just a Mr. Mew doll. As a result, Tsugumi Matsunai became the lone survivor of Shinjuku's purification. Once more a Reaper, but sealed away and closely monitored by the Executor. She acted through no will of her own, as her soul was trapped by noise. However, she was still able to send messages to the proxy using her latent trailer ability. It's called trailer? The noise binding her is now gone. If the damage to her plush vessel can be fixed, her soul will be free. So, was the noise binding her the one that we fought in week 2? Is that when why we could fix her and probably why the the like kind of puppet version of her didn't show up afterwards. The Shibuya River is known to be a unique place even amongst the entities of the higher plane. Its source is in Shinjuku, meaning it should have disappeared in the purification, and yet it continues to flow unseen in its own plane. What an excellent idea to hide souls there to spare them from purification. Tachi Suzuki, loved the game and cared for his compatriots more than any of the other Shinjuku Reapers. His actions leave no room for doubt. Carried, not carried, I don't know what I'm saying at this point. Most of the, most of the Shinjuku Reapers maintain the close bonds they shared back in Shinjuku. I know not what kind of Reaper Shiba Miyakaze was before being worked by the Executor, but judging by the Shinjuku Reaper's unflinching devotion to him, he must have been exceptionally charismatic. It is yet unknown if Shiba Miyakaze will be released from the Executor's influence at the end of the game. Even if he does manage to return to his former self, he will be forced to face the tragic reality that the loss of his friends was brought about by his own actions. Neku Sakuraba is wary of the proxy's powers. The pin continues to endlessly absorb the distortions, absorb but not destroy. They are likely being stored for some purpose. I wonder what the composer thinks of all this. There is still no sign of movement from him. Does he have a plan at all? Tomorrow will tell. The planar distortion caused by the replay were all a part of the Executor's plan to purify Shibuya. Who would have thought? The condition of the proxy and his comrades has taken a sudden turn for the worse. The ability to turn distorted energy into noise is entirely unique. It is likely latent to the Executor, either allowing him to create noise or granting him some comparable power. In essence, the distortions were once souls. They manifest from the thoughts and lost time of those whose timelines were cut off from canonical history. The proxy's pin stores the distortions born from each abandoned timeline, causing them to behave similarly to their source thoughts and birth new distortions. In other words, the pin allows the distortions to grow and multiply with each journey back in time. The birds the proxy saw are new distortions spawned from those stored in the pin, given an order-compliant and readily storable form. Generally, souls need a catalyst in order to take form. The Executor's pin must be the catalyst in this case, generating noise in advance and transplanting the distortion's imagination into them. The Executor is exceptionally adept at handling noise. There is a strong possibility that the noise's present bird form is temporary and will change at some point into a giant crazy phoenix boss. If its shape is undefined and constantly changing, the proxy and his team have a tough battle ahead of them. Shibuya is in grave danger. I'm guessing these are all the other final day chapters. Shibuya has received a new visitor. One that even the composer must not have expected. It is the very same individual who drew up the report on Shinjuku's inversion. But why would he come to Shibuya? Probably not to take care of the Executor. Whatever business he may have, Tanzo Kubo can wait until after the purification. It seems that Shinjuku's composer, he was the, oh shit. That's weird because I had like the two theories, and then when he said he was like an angel, I was like, okay, I guess he's just an angel, but I guess I was right in both accounts. Hazuki Mikagi has eliminated the Executor's noise and given the proxy another chance. I have an idea as to why. Shibuya's composer must be shaking his head right now. I have finally determined what was causing the proxy's soul to stagnate. His fear of taking responsibility, or it makes sense why he wouldn't make decisions because he didn't want to be responsible for the outcome. When reliable allies such as Minamoto, Daisuke Nojo Bito, and Neku Sakuraba appeared and took the reins, the relief of being freed from responsibility stilled the proxy's mind. So that's why he wouldn't change, and that's why he stagnated again after Neku showed up. Ironic that it was the famously unsympathetic composer of Shinjuku that led me to this conclusion. Shibuya now owes its continued existence to the proxy's use of replay to undo its destruction. It is up to the proxy to decide whether or not to turn back time. He undeniably has that right. Shibuya has withstood destruction, but now stands to face an even greater danger. The challenge before us is one we cannot refuse. So, I mean, if the conductor, the composer, which he says would be shaking his head right now, that means Joshua did not step in when the destruction happened and then just kind of let whatever Haz was doing do whatever. The Proxy's team faced a giant bird-shaped noise. I like that that's just the explanation. It's a big bird. It was reborn from the unstable black bird noise, which were destroyed at the order level and reassembled. This is a clear act of interference by Shinjuku's composer. It allowed the Proxy and his team to focus all of their efforts on one target. I mean, besides sending Ren back, was this? Which were destroyed at the order level and reassembled. I guess the fact that, like, with Kubo's destruction, and that kind of made the birds less powerful. Each feather on the Phoenix's tail is a karmic representation of a single temporal reversal. I was gonna ask that. How many times did we use replay, and is that how many feathers there were? Perhaps this is a manifestation of the Shinjuku's composer's internal conflict. He has clearly taken an interest in the Proxy and his teammates, yet his desire to see Shibuya purified is unchanged. I believe that his interference dealing with the Executor, contacting the Proxy, and meddling with the distortions was more than a simple apology to Shibuya. It provided the perfect excuse for Shibuya's composer to make a direct move of his own. However, Shibuya's composer failed to take the bait, remaining inactive to the very end. His reason for appearing to Neku Sakuraba and the others as they connected to Shibuya's imagination was not to help them, but merely to stabilize Neku Sakuraba's mind by reminding him he was there. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Joshua really did anything when he showed up. He was just like, hey guys, can I join the reunion? A look over the vibes recorded by the Orion S reveals no evidence of any outside interference. The Proxy's team defeated the Phoenix Cantus through their own and Shibuya's strength. That's good at least. Last report, let's go. Now that the game is over, I finally have permission to contact the composer. Several days have passed since then, and the composer has already completed 2 orders of business. One of them concerns Neku Sakuraba. Using a sample from a parallel world, one where Neku never went to Shinjuku, and instead lived peacefully in the RG for 3 years, the composer modified the space and memories around Neku so that he may once again reside in the RG without issue. Is that from the 10-pin slammer world? This is not particularly unusual, as the same steps must be taken when returning a Reaper to the RG. The other order of business concerns Shoka Sakurana. Her Reaper status lost, her destruction at the end of the game was all but assured. However, the composer saved her soul at the precise moment it diffused for deletion. She has been reborn in the RG in Shibuya. I believe this is a rare expression of gratitude on the composer's part, gratitude towards the Proxy, that is. The Proxy has also returned safely to his life in the RG. Through him, I have learned much about the network as a simulated plane of existence, as well as its effects on human emotions. There's no denying its use as a tool to expand one's world. However, it is up to the user to explore and experience that expanded world for themselves, lest it remains a mere simulation. Which kind of goes back into the world ends with you and the world begins with you. Enjoy the present and keep moving forward. Perhaps by refusing to interfere, the composer meant to convey to Shibuya the importance of accepting your circumstances and taking action yourself. I have one final note, directed at the Proxy, Rindo Kanata. The decision you made took courage, and I thank you for it. I sincerely hope we can meet in person someday. Would have been nice to meet in person someday. So yeah, okay. That all basically... I'm gonna change our fate right now as I have my thoughts. I don't think we really learned too much from that, besides Haz being the composer and also an angel. I don't think Joshua is both, but he might be. maybe he's not an angel. Maybe, I don't think the composers are all from a higher plane. I think it would be, I might be wrong about that. Whatever. Anyways,
Commence operation await.
I'm unclear on what Haz's meddling entails besides sending Rin back, but Haz himself said that that wasn't any more than just sending him back one last time. Would have been meddling at that point. And obviously then we learn what the whole deal with Tsugumi was, and that her power was called Trailer, which I think is funny. I like that. Look at these guys, all powerful, they're getting ready, they're doing their thing. I never mentioned it, but I liked it when Neku does his thing. He still puts his hands up like he's holding his headphones, even though he doesn't have any headphones. It's cool to know that Mr. H is around, even though he wasn't involved at all. And then, like I said, this whole thing where the imagination is used here is like, imagination is some kind of power source. So being able to, even though they're not like, everyone in Shibuya doesn't have strong imagination, the fact that they used everyone from Shibuya to counteract the negative distortion from the noise obviously is a good thing there. Obviously works well. You know, enough people, enough imagination. It's good. All of Shibuya was on our side. It's a fun thing. So I need to fight this final boss. And then I'm probably have to sit through the credits again. I'm assuming the after the credits we'll get another scene. And then after that scene we will be done with the game. Alright, here it is. It's gonna do it. It's gonna do the thing. Wait a minute. Wait. Oh, it's changing. Yeah. The world begins with you. Alright, post-credit now?
A bit late to come groveling back, wouldn't you say, friend?
My apologies, friend. I never intended Shibuya any harm. But rest assured that as Shinjuku's composer, I have personally eliminated the cause of the problem. Is that enough to earn your forgiveness?
I appreciate you exercising the executor from the UG. But you really ought to be more scrupulous when engaging with the lower planes. Nobody likes a mess maker.
And all this time, I thought I was following in your footsteps.
Then you might need to watch where you're walking. Speaking of which, I saw you took a stroll around the city. Did you and Rindo have an illuminating conversation?
Weren't you watching?
Only a little.
I offered him an apology and asked him a few questions.
What about?
I thought he might understand why you opposed Shibuya's cleansing, so I asked what he thought about the city, hoping to glean some insight.
Another mess finally made. And, was it insightful?
Not to the extent I would have liked. I still don't understand. Humans are the most irrational beings. That said, I was a bit surprised myself with how our conversation ended. For some reason, the boy was ready to risk everything for an unproven possibility. And all I could do was remind him to take responsibility for whatever decision he made. Almost as if I were encouraging him to take that risk.
Sounds like you acted a bit irrationally yourself.
I did indeed. Even entrusted him with that powerful pin, if you can believe it.
Well, you aren't alone. I too have fallen victim to that irrationality before.
Why do you think that is?
I can't say for sure, but one thing I've noticed is that every time I watch them try to overcome the absurdity of their world, I just can't help but hope they succeed.
Well, that was insightful. Hey, we got the cool picture again. Look how fun. I mean, it wasn't really that insightful, but it was interesting enough to see it. What's my percentage of completion? It is just 97%. There's bonus stuff I could do. I don't know if I want to worry about bonus stuff. I feel like I got my fill there. I need to go into another day, though. It was kind of weird hearing both Haz and Joshua talking to each other, because they talked in the same fashion. But it's interesting. It also kind of seems like that's why Joshua doesn't interfere, because he's like, oh, I just want to see if they can succeed. It's so cool rooting for them. Those people on the lower planes, those weirdos. It's neat, though. Nice of Rindo to finally make his own decision. Fret lost the tickets again.
Let's move.
I need to go this way. Hello, yes, I don't need to worry about you. Yep. Show me the flyer. We gotta go over here. Nope, I went the wrong way, actually. You would think I would know the city by now. I made a mistake.
Let's move.
It's a good game. I like it a lot. We gotta go this way, though. We gotta go a little bit. We gotta go a little bit distance here.
Let's move.
Got one last thing to do before we end it. I still don't know where to put anything. So this is still gonna be me fumbling, but bring the noise. I think this was for fighting the either time trial, probably time trial. Look right there. You collect all graffiti. The trophy ends with you. Big ol' right there in the middle of the screen. I need a minute. We're uber psychics. Let's go. We'll make you small. On brand is kind of a one that we've had big for so long that really doesn't need to be big. Okay, that's good. Let's take one last look at our wall. I like the game a lot, and I would love more World Ends With You because it's really fun and awesome. I got a slow walk. I wish there was just a bit more space. I don't like having the like really small. I guess it works out, but like Social Butterfly looks very small on this. Obviously, I could have just spent a lot of time messing with this as I please. I'm upset that the Mr. Mew is hidden behind this pillar. That's not a good spot for that. Terrible wall. I gotta spend time fixing it. I love this fucking wall, though. This wall is fantastic. I love, like, physically altering something in the world like this with my accomplishments. It's super awesome. And Neo: The World Ends With You is also super awesome.